Let's talk
relationships on
on
You
You
Me
Me
Radio.
Radio. So, what are we talking about?
Marriage, dating, parenting, business.
And love, emotions, sex,
It's a conversation with me, Lady Misty,
and DJ KTE.
on everything from hot topics to taboos.
Join us Mondays at 9 p.m. live on UME Radio.
Follow us at Let's Talk Relationship Show on Facebook or on Yumi Radio on Instagram. Let's talk relationships, arguments for the grown.
Get the UME Radio app to listen wherever you are. That is UME Radio. One word. Hey, everybody. Good night. Good night. Welcome to Let's Talk Relationship.
Yes, yes.
Lady Misty, how you doing? Lady Misty in the house tonight.
I'm not bad at all. How are you, DJ?
I am doing fantabulous. I had a rainy day, but I stayed warm
Oh,
in spite of the rain.
okay.
I'm glad to be here tonight. And we've been having a great run with our Monday night segment here. And we're just loving our audience that is
Yes,
joining,
sir.
just making it happen, you know? We're having a big old party here. That's what we're doing.
That's right. That is so correct.
Yes. So, ladies, tonight I am DJ KTE.
And I am Lady Misty.
That's right. And we're your famous duo, the infamous ones, and we're going to make it happen tonight. So, Lady Misty, what have we got tonight?
So tonight, guys, let me say welcome to all those who are listening to us right across the world. We are happy that you are here tonight to keep our company for the next hour and a half. So I want to say welcome to all those who are on the Apple Store, Google Play Store, all those persons listening through iTunes, the iTunes podcast, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Podbean, TuneU, Live 365, Spotify, Stitcher, and I want to say a big shout out to the YouTube family, all 106 of you so far. Thank you for those in the Zoom room as well. Thank you for joining us. Now, tonight we are going to be continuing tonight on the topic of cheating.
Are we
We
talking?
are
Are we talking sex again tonight? Again? Are we talking about sex
Yes,
again tonight? Lord,
yes, we are. Yes, we
Lord,
are.
Lord, it's gonna be
So
crazy.
we are, of course, trying to expose the misconceptions about cheating. But tonight, we're going to be hearing from the men. So
Uh,
it's a men's virtual roundtable. So it's an all male panel tonight. So we have joining us tonight, we have Mr. Gary Higgins out of New York. We have Mr. Tyrone Shaw out of Jamaica. Also joining us from Jamaica is Reverend Courtney Morrison and Victor Brown. So we have a lovely lineup for you tonight, and they are going to be talking to us about cheating and how they think of it and their perspective. I want to say, of course, a special thank you to our sponsors. Of course, without them, we don't have a show. So we want to say, of course, a special thank you to UME Digital Media Inc., UMEDigitalInc.com. We also want to thank Mindfulness in Ministry Masterclass, and you can find them at mycoachministry.com. Check out their courses on Udemy. Accessbusinessry.com, an empowerment tool to help faith-based businesses business leaders, build around their ministry and success plan. Establish, develop, register and own your brand. And please connect at umedigitalinc.com/EDRP. I want to say, of course, A big shout out to Kimberly Clark. She's a medical student and she's a part of our live studio audience here in the Zoom room tonight. I want to say a special welcome to you. Thank you for keeping us company. We have a great show for you tonight. And we're sliding right into deal breakers or deal maker. And this is where we talk about cheating. What do men really think about cheating? So let's join Marsha J from Weekends with Marsha J and Jesse, aired Saturdays at 8 a.m. And she's in the streets with the question, what do men think about cheating? And the ladies came out this week to answer this question. So let's lean in.
We want to hear it. We want to hear it. Yes, folks. In the meantime, folks, don't forget to get the app. You got to go to your app store, your Play Store, your Google Store, and your own store, whatever that is, and get one word. It's UME Radio. The letter UME Radio, and get the app. And from that app, you can see everything that we're doing. See the craziness. We are really crazy, but we're fun. And we want to let you know, guys, that listen, at the end of the day, it's not just about buying or selling. It's about finding yourself, developing your brand, discovering new things about you and how big this world is and how we can impact this world even in our own space. So we're about really empowering 1 million lives. That's our vision. And with your help and with your other people's help, we can do this and we can make it happen. Go right ahead.
Hey, I'm back again this week. It's your girl Marsha J, and we are inside Dealmakers Deal Breakers, the Vox Pop segment. Of course, you know you can catch me on Saturday mornings, on Weekends with Marsha J and Jesse at 8 a.m. right here on UMERADIO. The question for this week is, what do men think about cheating? Ladies, let's check in.
My take on cheating is that it's a wrong habit, or it's a wrong practice. However, persons do cheat for various reasons. It might be for an unmet need, considering that both male and females, they have different needs. So it might be as a result of an unmet need or an unmet desire why they have resorted to cheating.
What do men think about cheating? It's a very interesting question. I do think that men cheat and think they are able to get away with it, or they will never ever be found out. I do think that they think it is normal for them to cheat because maybe they lack an example of what a responsible man looks like. I think they cheat because they want to cheat. Because most times what I do find, based on other interviews I've done, is that they will always come back and say, it wasn't you, it was me. And then upon further investigation, they may say, I don't know why I did that. Whether it's emotional or physical, in terms of flirting and things like that, they're just not sure why. Or it is that they are so young in the game that they don't realize what's going on, that this is literally cheating. And they already have someone. So the question, I think, should be, who is teaching the men how to be loyal? Because there are songs out there that are talking about girls not being loyal. And it seems as if there is always a counter reaction, you know, you cheat so I cheat too. instead of persons just saying, listen, this is not working, let's just go our separate ways. There's no easy way to break a relationship. No matter how you say it or when it is said, it's always going to be a painful process. But which would you rather? Would you rather have 2 accusations on your account as opposed to 1? By that, I mean, would you rather cheating and breaking up be the 2 accusations, or just the fact that, hey, he broke up with me because he realized that I wasn't the one?
I think men cheat because they want to. I don't believe that they cheat because they're drawn into cheating. Of course, some men are really, steadfast in their relationship, but for most men that I know, if they do cheat, it is because, they keep saying, oh, the woman wasn't doing anything, or the wife or the girlfriend wasn't doing what she should have been doing, so they had to get it elsewhere. Which, if a woman should do and take that thought and do the same thing as a man would do, then it would have been seen as if we are violating the relationship, and then I'm sure for most part of it, our relationships tend to end. But then a man thinks that, even though he cheats, whether he gets caught or not, it doesn't matter to him. Um, he in the he thinks in the back of his mind that, women are to, forgive them, move on, and, continue the relationship. Or if they want, they can leave. They already have somebody on the side, so it doesn't matter, you know.
Some men cheat because they want a sense of excitement in their life. They view some relationships as boring, so they will have a girlfriend, or if they're married, they have their wife, and they will just cheat on them because they are bored and they want to experience a different type of connection with someone else.
My take on cheating is that it's a wrong habit, or it's a wrong practice. However, persons do cheat for various reasons. It might be for an unmet need.
I think human beings are selfish by nature. We tend to want more than we give. But as it relates to men, I think they have a different level of selfishness in that because there is a brand that is attached to how many women a man can sleep with that strokes their ego to want to sleep with as many women as possible. And I think that if a man knows that a woman really loves him, then he will use that. He will play on that love and probably go to a road and do just about anything, and then comes back and with the tears and the mushy side to him and think that okay, then if I tell my wife this, or I tell my lover this, or if I make it up with a gift or whatever it is, then she will forgive me. But yeah, man, I think that men think that they're supermen and they can do just about anything they want and get away with it for the most part. And in addition to this, our societal norms and values, they have deviated so much from the set point that was established biblically to the point where women stand in readiness and expect men to cheat. It is no longer a matter of if a man will cheat, but when will he cheat, right? And as Christians, we can't think certain things, because whatever you think, that's something that you might put into the atmosphere, and whatever you say, that you shall have. I mean, this is biblical, so I mean, it's a lot to take in. So we have to be careful. But men, yeah, man, I think men think that they can get away with anything.
Think men think that cheating is wrong and they wouldn't cheat if they really love the person. However, they don't see small stuff like just flirting as cheating.
So this is what I think men think about cheating. I think some men see cheating as a backdoor for them to have their cake and eat it too. I don't even know that phrase is. But yeah, I think it's their. Some men think it's their backdoor to having the life they really desire, but are too coward to live out loud. So I think sometimes they're in relationships with people they're not truly in love with, or have purpose with, or are happy with, or are able to be themselves with. And so they have this back door where they go and truly be themselves by cheating with that person. I also think some men cheat because they feel needed. I also think, and in feeling needed, they think that they're able to get that elsewhere. I also think that some men think that cheating is just a flaw. You know, it's just something I did wrong. And I think they weaponize it. So when they're caught, they blame somebody else and not take responsibility and accountability. But cheating is a coward's way out. And I don't think men are really truly accepting that for what it is. But I think deep down they know it's the cowardly way out, and they're just being cowards. That's just my thoughts.
Wow, Misty, what do you say, Misty?
All right, interesting stuff.
Hmm.
Interesting stuff. I hear some words jumping out at me. I hear selfishness. I hear it's the norm, cultural background. Um, Interesting. It's interesting to hear the ladies and how they think. I heard one person say, it has gotten so regular that it's not a, if but a when. So it has gotten so normal that women, expect it at some point or another in their relationship. That's interesting. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. I'm really curious to hear what the guys are going to say tonight because I
Yes,
know they got something to say.
that's true.
Uh huh.
So let me just give a little backdrop here as to what we're talking about. Uh, of course, for those who are just joining us, welcome. And tonight we are continuing on the topic cheating, and we're going to be hearing from the men tonight. So it's from the man's perspective.
Want to welcome
So,
what's it?
so just a little backdrop here.
Hmm?
Cheating is a particular type of secretive, sustained closeness with someone who isn't your primary partner. It is one person making a unilateral decision to cultivate non sexual intimacy with someone other than their primary romantic partner in a way that weakens or undermines the relationship. Not only is it incredibly heartbreaking for the person who is being cheated on, but it also affects that person's trust, with that betrayal leading to other issues down the line, such as not being able to accept it when staying in the same relationship or being unable to trust future partners. There are two forms of relationships, and we spoke about one a little bit more last week: emotional and physical cheating. Emotional No, physical cheating is the act of physical sex, and emotional cheating is having relations with someone without any physical contact. Now, it says here, while some people feel heartbroken over a physical act such as sex, others feel more betrayed by their partner confiding in someone else, leading to actual feelings for someone and mimicking the closeness and intimacy of a romantic relationship, even if nothing physical is involved. So that's the backdrop of what we are talking about tonight.
You see, I knew a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the men getting all these accolades and, they're great men. I knew something was coming up for us. I knew it. But tonight we standing strong because I got five brothers here. So I got help on my side because I can feel the hammer coming down tonight on the men. So
All right. Before we get into the discussion, Ben, good night. Um, before we get into the discussion, there's a new release, a Netflix drama series, The Crown. I'm sure many of you may have watched it or have seen it, and it dramatizes the love triangle between Prince Charles and the late Princess Diana and Camilla. And it is such an interesting clip because it really outlines how some men think and how devastating cheating can be. According to the clip, Prince Charles, who was married to Diana, was also in a relationship with Camilla. That's his side piece, as they would say it. And it really broke the relationship because, as a wife, uh, Diana knew that his heart was really not with her. And so their marriage was really a front. It was really just for a publicity, but his heart was not there. And I know, based on the dialogue that I hear her having with the person interviewing her, and based on her responses, she loved him, but his heart was somewhere else. And it was so devastating her finding out about that relationship and how it eventually broke her and broke their relationship. So cheating is no respect of persons. It's high and low.
yes, and yeah, it is
and
true.
and
It is so true. But before we get into that segment, I want to really officially welcome these men tonight, one by one.
Yes.
I want to see their faces and see if they're shaking. If they're shaking, they're out. So we're going to do it right now. So let's really introduce these men tonight, these distinguished men, before we get going with this incredible topic here.
Sure. So we have Mr. Victor Brown. He is from Jamaica, and he is a Christian creative and law student.
All right then.
Yes, we have Reverend Courtney Morrison. It's a pleasure to have him back. He was with us the last time. He
Yes.
is from Jamaica, and he's a pastor of Fellowship Tabernacle, and he is the radio host of the program The Mailbox.
All right.
We have Mr. Gary Higgins. He's coming to us out of New York, and he is a music producer and entrepreneur. Up next, we have Mr. Tyrone Shaw, and he is part owner of RTSS Courier and Shipping.
Nice. And we have Mr.
Nice. So,
We have Courtney. We have Mr. Courtney Montgomery.
yes.
Yes, got him.
Yes. So, good night, gentlemen. Thank you for being here tonight. How are you all doing? doing? I trust that you are well.
If,
Greetings,
if you can hear
greetings.
me, wave your hand. If you can hear me, wave your hands, guys. Let me see you raise your hands. If you're sure. Yes.
Hallelujah.
All
All right.
right. All right. All
Good
right.
night,
Good night,
everyone.
gentlemen. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thanks for having me
Thank
again.
you so much for joining us
Thank you,
as
Carl.
we talk tonight about cheating. I hope you are ready to tell us, talk up the things and tell us all the things them,
It wasn't me. It wasn't
right?
me.
It wasn't me.
Definitely, definitely excited to be a part of this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
You are
Awesome.
most welcome. You are most welcome. So you want to kick off the first question since you're the male, or you're going to leave it to me, DJ KTE?
I'll kick it off. I'll kick it off. I can be start
Okay,
here now. I will
go
kick it off.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, gentlemen. So we know that we've been stigmatized that we are dogs, and we're gonna cheat. We're gonna cheat somehow, some way, someday. And the few of us that are really cornered the market when it comes to trust and really honorable men. So, um, what do you say about men who feel that it's okay to have a side piece? I mean, they love their wives. They bring home the bread. They take care of their spouses, but they have a little thing on the side. What do y'all take on that, gentlemen?
I allow the younger gentleman to start first. Mr. Victor.
All right, Pastor Courtney. So I'd definitely start by saying it's wrong. I've definitely not espoused the view that there is any scriptural or even moral justification for infidelity of any kind, whether it be emotional, whether it be physical or otherwise, not even flirting, can find any sort of justification. And so for me as a believer, if it's wrong in the sight of the Lord, it has to be wrong in my sight as well. If his spirit truly lives inside me and I hold to his word being true, then it's wrong. In my mind, however, I treat it just as any other sin. That is something that breaks the heart of God, breaks the laws of God, breaks the word of God. And so there is room for redemption from that view. But I definitely don't agree that, yeah, man, man can have him wife and a side piece and it's perfectly okay. No, that's definitely wrong.
Next.
I like that you use the word infidelity as opposed to cheating. I continue to say the word cheating makes it sound good and some things that sounds nice. But when you say infidelity, it brings it more into perspective. I listened to some of the clips early on as to, it's a matter of when and not if. I'm one of those who sometimes persons accuse me that I try to make the women look bad so as to make the men look good. No, I'm giving figures and statistics that don't lie. What we call paternity fraud, which would mean that the women have children that are not for the men that they're with, is now standing at 43%. It has jumped over the years from 33 to 35 to 38. It now stands at 43. So I usually don't think men cheat by themselves or create situations of infidelity by themselves. So I'm careful to listen to being called dogs as men, because I'm about to say something, put on their offense jackets. Because if men are dogs, that would make women female dogs, and we don't call them that. But the fact of the matter is that men don't cheat by themselves. Most men, I believe, who cheat, it's usually, there's absolutely no justification for it. It is totally wrong. And so let me clear that up. I want to touch the emotional infidelity firstly, where they might share more with another partner or spouse, which means more than likely the person who they sit with as the spouse or the woman, somehow communication needs to be developed. And that's usually the beginning of something that could eventually lead to sexual infidelity. And so communication has to become heightened, sharing, appreciating each other. One of the findings that will show you too,
more than 80% of men, we spoke to this, their love language is affirmation, which means they like to be appreciated. They like to be told they are doing good. Any woman who continues to affirm her man in that sense, I guarantee you, he will not look for another one. It is important that he also needs to look at the person that he has chosen to be with him and ensure that if that's his choice, he sticks by his word. And so the issue of trust, as you spoke about, when broken, it then speaks to creditability, that it may be lost. And trust is just like Rome. Rome wasn't built in a day, but it took hours to burn it down. And Rome is still not completely rebuilt. That's how trust is, you know. I want to also add that infidelity is not something that's in your DNA per se. It's a decision. You can choose, even if it's in your DNA, it's a choice. And therefore, we need to stop and think about what we're doing. What is it that we're looking for? And why are we making the decisions that we're making? I start by saying that.
Wow.
All right. Thank you, Rev.
That's a mouthful.
All right.
Me, I
Mr.
think
Yes.
nothing. Treating is wrong. It has its way of coming back at you further down. So if it don't come back at you at today, it will come back someday. Trust me. Some men do it because they think it's cool to be called dog. As you hear these days, men like to call each other dogs. But for me, I can testify. It comes right back at you, and when it bites, it really bites hard. That's my 2 cents.
Mr. Higgins?
Okay, so the question is, what's my take on cheating, or why do men cheat?
You can mix it up. But
Yeah,
it could be,
first of all, what's your take on it?
Yeah, you can mix it up.
Okay, so I think cheating, for me personally, it has a lot to do with, weakness in regards to loyalty and self-control, character. So I don't know if you need me to elaborate much deeper than that in terms
That's pretty good. We can definitely get together because we got a long show ahead of us, so we can go back to this. But I have another question, guys. I do have another question. Now, we see where in our culture, a lot of men of the cloth, so to speak, pastors and so on, have set a really bad precedence as far as what men supposed to do and supposed to be. You know? So, of course, it has really put a cloud over us as men. So if he can do it, and if he can do it, and he's in such a office, and then what's the big deal? The little deacon down there, what's the problem there? So my thing is that, how do you think that we men can maybe train other men to think a certain way who may not have our maybe mindset or our background or discipline? How can we help these men who feel like it's okay to cheat and to whatever when they see all these things going on in church and whatever? And we're Christians as well. So how do we mentor these men around us?
Do we continue in the same order, or we're going to mix it up?
Same order is fine.
All right, sure. So, yeah, a lot of prominent ministers, a lot of prominent pastors, preachers, teachers, worship leaders have had struggles with infidelity over history. And it's evidence of a couple of things. I think this is such a complex issue. There are a lot of things that goes into this. By no means any justification. That's why I started from the position of, it's wrong, it's sin. However, a lot of the time, there are a lot of things that goes into a prominent minister falling into adultery or infidelity of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
It can include societal cultural norms that he has learned from youth and never had processed out of his system. Gets married, doesn't unlearn certain cultural expectations, and so it manifests in his marriage. It can be a case where this person has brokenness. I've seen where a male will rise in ministry because God has blessed him, God has anointed this person, God has given him a platform. There's a demand on their anointing to serve other believers, and so they have a space, they're known, but there's internal brokenness that has never been healed, and that is also a result of a lot of stuff. That's probably a result of his own pride. It can be a result of not having a circle of persons who have ever mentored or discipled this person. A lot of ministers go up the ranks really quickly without any real discipleship or pastoring, and there's just an expectation. Well, if you minister well and the Spirit of God moves, you must be okay. And so there's a lot of presumption that really goes on. That okay, you have a platform, you have a voice, you have an anointing, so you're okay. When in fact there might be a lot of internal brokenness that could lead to something, as infidelity, but it was just never dealt with from the early stages. And so a lot of persons look at the fall of a lot of prominent ministers, and it really affects them, either making them or helping them to say, if he can do it, I guess anybody can. But that's definitely not a scriptural view. It doesn't matter who sins, sin remains sin. And that's why I started by saying, scripturally it's wrong. And so and morally it's wrong. And so it doesn't matter who falls into this sin, it remains sin. And so on that basis, it would really be wrong of us or anybody to try to piggyback on the failures of another man and say, well, if he did it, then it must be okay. That doesn't make any sense. Even logically, if a prominent minister drinks Gramazone and he bleeds out, you don't just drink poison saying, well, if he did it, I guess it's okay. No, it's still not a healthy thing. It's a harmful thing to do. And so definitely you don't want to encourage that kind of thing. A couple ways to tackle it. There's so many ways, and Pastor is far more qualified to address the ways to address your my thoughts. Definitely a stringent and a very, very robust system of discipleship for ministers. Listen, I am a young minister, and I can tell you there's a lot of presumption that happens in church. Even over this weekend, there's been public outrage over a brother in the Lord whom I love very dearly as a fellow minister. And being a pastor's kid, being a young minister, being somebody who's been a worship leader since youth, teenagers coming up, I have seen the presumptions, like the burdens and the expectations of church that, you're turning up Sunday after Sunday, leading us into the presence of the Lord, so you must be okay. And there is a challenge that comes with, there's a challenge that comes with, who do I go to with this? There are calls for confession, there are calls for transparency, there are calls for openness. But who has really proven themselves to be trustworthy with my brokenness? Who can I go to that I know will not publicize my errors or failures that everybody else in the church is dealing with? But because I'm a minister, if I open up, it's going to be viewed as, oh my God, how could you? And so there are all of these things that go into the mix of a lot of ministers rising to a position of prominence without getting the healing they need to stay there well. And so I think church is having a very robust, safe space to help hold the hands of their male ministers and kind of disciple it with love and address some of the sensitive topics and be like, hey, this may not be a struggle for you, but let's include this in our discipleship course just to deal with it. Without you even volunteering to us that this is a struggle for you, we just want to make you a rounded minister. And so we're going to talk about things like how to be loyal to a partner, how to manage your sexual appetites, how to manage different addictions and kind of help those to come within healthy parameters. And so that's one of the things. And so there are a lot of things that go into it, but these are some of the things I think that can help over time to kind of cut back on this trend. Because it really is a trend that we see. We see a lot of ministers rising and an alarming rate of ministers falling, and they're falling to a particular set of stuff, which is really an indictment on the church. We can blame individuals all we want, but if you have a class of 500 students and 450 fail an exam, that is an indictment on the instructor. We need to revisit our church practice and our discipleship models and say, hey, is there something that we're missing as pastors, as leaders, as disciples, as the body? How can we stem the flow of blood at this wound right here? There's a lot more that can be said, but we have so many panelists, so I'll hand over to the next person.
I hear you, brother. Definitely hear you.
See, Mac, you spoke for all the panelists. The truth is the high expectations of ministers, forgetting also that they are human, and being human is never an excuse. Because when God created us, he created us knowing exactly who we were. And he created us the best beings of all the beings. When he created us, He created everything and just said they were good. When he created man and woman, he said, very good. The Greek word to means very functional, efficient, and ready to do. Uh, but Victor said it in terms of mentorship, in terms of brokenness, in terms of looking at our men and sitting with our men. Who are the persons mentoring? Who are the persons that they're accountable to? Who is it that's giving them guide? Many of them have never been fathered, mentored, nor think that they should be accountable to anyone. And as you know, the young ladies have a different thing. They're all being taught how to play dolly house, how to clean the house and do all this. So they have already learned, while little boys outside playing cowboys and Indians, so it comes out shooting guns. You know, it therefore means that we have to re-educate, reassess, reculturize our men mainly into recognizing that it is toxic, it is unhealthy to practice or even to make the decision, even in our times of weakness, to become vulnerable and fall. But it's also true that we must set up, as Victor said, systems that when or if it happens, that there is a place for them to be restored, to be healed, and or else we're going to grow with a broken, continuously a broken society. And we find that, especially even in the church, instead of men, finding healing, as he said, if it's a praise and worship leader, that's what we want to do. We tend to go after blood as opposed to wanting to heal. And wherever the bleeding is, to patch it. And we call them worthless. We want to throw stones at them when we may be guilty of the same thing. And if we don't fix that, we are going to find that it's going to continue. That saying is hurting people hurt people. I've heard that saying, and I believe we need to change because it sort of justifies me hurting you because I'm hurting. And some people take it as that. It's still an eye for an eye mentality. Hurting people needs to heal. I prefer that statement. And there must be a safe space for them to heal. There must be a safe place for them to share. And as Victor said, not publicize, because that is going to make an issue far more complicated and leaving it out there for the public to become the judge, juror, and probably executioner of how is it our men are. I listened to some of the comments and I heard the responses and I'm like, wow, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, for the men. The term dog, actually, if you look in Deuteronomy 23, verse 17, the word dog there always referred to a male prostitute from in the Bible. And it was saying that not even a male prostitute should carry an offering to the temple like that. And it became popularized in the US by one Snoop Dogg, I believe, who himself, lent himself to everyone. And then in Jamaica, we had our guys singing Old Dog Like Us. And our men somehow thought it was a good idea to have gal in a bongo. And so the issue of infidelity is therefore now being normalized, but we have to break that and we have to get it fixed. Mentorship, accountability, and a safe space is what is going to help us to fix those things.
All right. Before we continue, just to let you know, panelists, that there are some questions that have been coming in from our viewers and listeners. So I'll be dropping them in at intervals. I have one already. Well, I have more than one, but I have one to Mr. Shaw. But before I do that, there is a listener that made a comment, and I want to read it. And it says, I'm watching, but I am quite annoyed with this conversation. With all the support and counseling, Pastor John Gray still embarrassed his wife, and so did the late Pastor Zachary Timms, who died in the act. Someone needs to be real on the panel. So that was from one listener who's listening in. And there's a question here to Mr. Shaw. How easy or not easy is it for a man to cheat? And this person is saying, generally speaking.
I would love to to just share a little bit on the first
How
question.
easy? Can you please repeat that one?
Yeah, so the person is asking how easy or not easy is it for a man to cheat? How easy is it to cheat? Is it very easy? Is it hard? Does it depend on the man, or it's
Yeah.
It depends on the man himself. All right. As uh, as you can see, ladies these days they spend tons of money on their bodies. Some on nails, hairs. They are very, very, very attractive in all ways. So it's very, very easy, and it's hard not to. It's hard not to. Um, why I keep reminding myself if I'm with someone,
mm-hmm.
I learned this from my good friend. I
Mm-hmm.
admire the way he go about treating his wife. So I keep asking him advice. Like it's like if you treat her like she's the only woman in the world,
Mm-hmm.
just tell yourself she's the only woman in the world. Believe me, you will come home to her on time. You will, if you decide to stop somewhere, have a drink with the bartender, you inviting yourself for
Trouble, huh?
problems. Yeah, I can tell you from experience. It's easy and it's hard not to. It's easy to cheat and it's hard not to.
All right. All right. Victor, you wanted to say something, Mr. Higgins? I have a question for you coming in, but I wanted Victor to speak. He said he wanted to make a comment
Yeah,
on the first. Go
yeah,
ahead.
man. So Jesus oftentimes would use parables, which are real life practical demonstrations to communicate a spiritual truth. I believe so far the conversation has been very real and very vulnerable. And I'll give you this parable just with regard to the first question. Drug abuse, substance abuse is a major problem in every society. Stats show it. High percentages of persons that are hooked on some narcotic of some kind. Yet, what is
Right.
still the leading method of addressing it is not incarceration, it's not punitive, it's rehabilitative. It is finding a course of treatment for the offender whereby there can be genuine reform, and it always starts with creating a safe space. Always. Now, with regard to something like cheating, with regard to something like infidelity, as I said before, it is something that is rooted in our sinful nature as males and females. I'm not going to get into this the female cycle. That's not the focus of tonight. I mean, Pastor Corey did an excellent job of sharing some of the stats. The figures don't lie. And what we find in our society, we're very quick to say the guys are big cheaters because we talk about sexual infidelity far more than we talk about emotional. But the stats show women are far faster to get emotionally connected to someone outside of the relationship. And it's justified as we didn't do anything, so it's okay. While the guys are faster to sexually, physically come in contact with somebody else than emotionally. We'll do something mechanical and forget the person next week sometimes, some of us. But to emotionally create a lasting bond is usually harder for us. But what I'm saying is it starts with discipleship, addressing the sin issue in a very real and honest way in our churches, in our discipleship classes, in our evangelism, and
Yes.
addressing it as a sin issue that needs the cure of, hey, God, Christ, the Holy Spirit can help you with this. So whether it is that you practice this or you feel inclined to do this because you believe a man for have girl in a bungalow, as the song say, or whether it is that you cheat because you were hurt when you were younger by a female, and so you no longer trust women. So now for you is, hey, I'm gonna hurt anybody I come across because I don't trust any of you, so I'm not going to stay loyal. Whether it is that you weren't fathered well, and so you don't have a model in your mind of a loyal man, what a man looks like being loyal to his partner. You just don't have a context for it, because when you look around, the whole of the man them just have a bag of woman, and so for you, this is just what guys do because I know nothing else. I haven't seen anything else demonstrated.
Right.
Whatever it is, the cure is we need to help these people come to a saving knowledge of Christ and have the Holy Spirit do that work inside them in love. That's what it remains for me.
Victor, you know what's the leading stats for why most men say they cheat or they're infidels? Is because you can't trust women. You take a
Exactly.
survey and
Yeah.
they'll say, she gonna have a man anyhow. So sometimes the very thing that the woman is saying about the man, he's saying about the woman as well. I want to go back to that and address that issue about being real and being annoyed and John Gray and Zim Zachary. You know, I went to Kingston College, a school where, you know, people just say we are horrible. Yet the far majority of Kingston College students are excellent. Similarly, we tend to use persons of note and highlight them as if they represent the greater populace of what is happening, especially in church and with the ministers. It becomes highlighted, and mainly becomes highlighted because of the high expectation and the role that you should be playing. But it does not. The fact is, empirical data is what I love. The fact is that most ministers are loyal. Not because we have some what's happening in the Roman Catholic Church and stuff. When the statistics is done, you have millions of ministers, and of that, more than 500,000 are loyal. So they're in the majority. Is it real that these prominent individuals did what they did? Of course it is. Why? We don't know. It may be pride, as Victor said. Why John Gray is still embarrassed, or, you know, whatever Sir Zachary did until I'm not even sure, because I don't necessarily follow prominent persons. I in my own corner do what I'm doing. But the truth is, and that's one of the reasons why I like to use the statistics, you know, it is showing that women are basically more discreet in being infidels than men, because men feel it's something they should boast about, while the women tend to feel it's something that they should keep a secret, unless they're in a group with their girlfriends. But the issue is infidelity, and why men are infidels, or why is it that men cheat. And if we look at those issues, the bottom line is that in their mind, remember, you know, our thing is, there is no justification for the position. Want everybody to hear that. If you didn't hear anything else, there's no justification for it. We're telling you reasons that men have given.
Okay.
The lack of appreciation. The biggest one is the lack of respect, whatever men cite as respect. And it's fairly biblical, because when the scripture, and because some of it is also misinterpretation, men's love language, affirmation, and what they think is respect. I wanted to comment on something that Victor said. In Jamaica, we have a saying, man can give bun, but him can't take bun. In other words, he feels he can be an infidel, but if his girl does the same thing to him, he becomes a raging bull instead of seeking how to mend the fence, you know? And part of that culture where men seem to believe that it is acceptable, that they can do what they're doing, and the young ladies to forgive them because it's expected. We have to kill that culture quickly.
So, Mr. Morrison,
have our men know that it's not something we must practice. Yes, DJ.
Yes, Mr. Morrison, just interject here. So what percentage of men cheat? Do you have that stats on you by chance? What percentage of men they
If
say
we were to use it is more like a 57 to a 43%. That's a real rate of men to women.
Yes? Definitely higher.
And being proved, but you know, whatever it is, men does it more. But it's not this vast difference of 80 to 20. Neither is it 60 to 40.
Right,
See,
Pastor.
it's absolutely not.
And may I just add as well, Pastor, that most of the stats, when you really drill down into the stats, because I've done research as a part of my courses of study, when you drill down into the stats, most of what the research findings are is sexual infidelity. Most of the research doesn't really address what is the primary mode of cheating for women, which is emotional in nature. But we don't really have those conversations because it's not seen as wrong. Girl have her male bestie that she probably shares personal emotional connections with, things that should really be reserved for her partner. It's, in my books at least, just the same, and that's another conversation. But the stats are not necessarily representative of all the issues involved.
And that's how that young lady usually becomes vulnerable, because she's sharing with a male counterpart who is her best friend and not her spouse or her boyfriend. What tends to happen when things go badly, she goes to the person she confides in, cries on his shoulder, and that's when the infidelity occurs on that side. 85%
Okay.
of what we have seen, that is true. Men and women don't cheat by
But
themselves.
isn't but I want to ask a question. Isn't that behavior reactive and not proactive?
Not necessarily.
Cheating
Both. It can be both.
and falling like that can more be an act of vulnerability and weakness, and not
Okay.
even necessarily one such as whether proactive versus reactive. Um,
Okay.
but I am sure that there are men who go out there who deliberately do this. Yes, I would call that proactive,
Yes.
and I'm sure that that
Hmm.
though is in the ratio of 20% or less.
So men, question.
Okay.
So
All
men,
right, hold on, DJ KTE. Before I go, I want to address this question. Mr. Higgins, I know he's been very quiet,
yes, he
but
is.
a listener uh, directed a question at him, and it says, "Is there a difference between when a man?" Hold on, let me see if I can read this properly. Is there a difference between when a man sees and when a man looks at a woman? Is there a difference between seeing and looking?
Okay.
Admiration versus lust.
That's a catch 22 there, man. That's a catch 22. Watch it now.
Admiration versus lust. They call it the second look. The first look is
Okay.
admiration. The second look is
Um, Interestingly, for me, a lot of times the play on words can,
Mm-hmm.
you know, be very tricky when it as it paints, that picture to one's perspective. Because you said seeing and looking, to me, it was like kind of like the same thing, for example. But for me, I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy
Okay.
because a lot of times, and I think it also depends on where your mindset is. You can look, because I'm very much alive. I see white people, I see black people, I see all different types of people. You know what I mean? And of course, I'm curious as, what the experience would be with a white person versus a black, female. And, even if you want to get deeper into, culture and how we interact with our own kind versus how, you know, a white person interacts or embraces our culture, and I
Okay.
receive a lot of what I would say genuine love from strangers. I mean, white people, men and women. But, as it pertains to this conversation, just, it made
Mm-hmm.
me want to kind of explore, that side of the line based on what I've experienced or seen, along the lines of my own, um, black women sometimes just being so um, angry and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
too prideful, to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially when it comes to being supportive of, the male, whether it is a marriage relationship, of, what that person's vision is, and, whatever it is that they're, trying to pursue, you know versus what
Okay.
I've seen with, like, some of the white people. It's like they're so simple sometimes. I'm not saying they don't have their complications, but it's like, I met a guy once at a festival, and he's, at a stall, and these people got money, but he's at a stall with his wife making. She made some little stuff with her hands, like arts and craft and stuff like that, and he was so proud. but let that be me. You know what I'm saying? Talking about I'm doing something like that to, support my family or whatever. What? You better go try to be a lawyer or get some degree or something like that. And, I need my nails and this and that. And, then you start to be compared to their friends who husbands are dentists and probably lawyer, which, by the way, does not guarantee you loyalty, love, or security. So.
Wow. I gotta jump in here. This is big, man. This is huge right here. But men, we are in trouble, aren't we? We are in big trouble. The reality is that as I listen to this particular conversation, I think about my own life. I think about the Black men and the Black women, culturally and where we're coming from, some of our past, the hurt, the pain, the whole, I would say, social engineering that goes on to have us not love each other or trust each other. But I think that, there was a time in my marriage, I was married one time, and I remember that I cheated on my wife emotionally, not physically, emotionally. When I found out, and when she found out, I mean, it broke me. And I didn't mind going in front of a church of over 300 people and confess to her the hurt that I caused. But I think as men, we often also entrenched in our, I guess, emotions or feelings that we don't see how amazing our Black women really are, and possibly don't even know the pain that they're feeling or the hurt that they're feeling, to even begin to understand, even our conversation, how we hurt them, or because see, I think the Black women love her Black men. I think we love our Black women, but I think that there's a sense of disconnect that I think we have in not really empathizing with the Black woman and her pain and her struggle, and how we haven't really held it down the way we should. The caller said about transparency, about being real, and I think I can probably hear what the caller is probably saying, and not that I stand to be guilty, but I think that it is saying that we want to hear you, we want to hear your heart, And I said, I've blown it, and it's not the big things, but I think what we need to do as men is to let our women know when we're wrong, even if they hurt and cry and feel bad about it, they make even get us. Let them know. Listen, I'm messing up. I'm not thinking right. Something's off here. We need to talk. Be proactive in that way. I think even if something is split, they would know that this man here came up. He owned up to stuff, and that kind of respect, I think, is passed on even to her son, because a lot of men, what we do sometimes, the pain that we cause, whether it was purposely or not, because it wasn't resolved well, she passed it on to her son. Look what daddy did. So that's a thought. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay. So I've been on the side of the fence where what you guys are referring to as cheating emotionally, I did not necessarily consider myself being a victim of that. When I did it, it was deliberate also. Now, for me, I think it was also, healthy for me, because my wife at the time, as much as you want to be transparent and open and honest and stuff like that, sometimes it's when you understand the dynamics of what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with, and the factors surrounding that, you meaning well and having the right intentions with a person that have the wrong perspectives can sometimes
does it matter?
brew the wrong results. I think it does, because when I wanted to interact with her and be, like things that I would have wanted to share with her, she was not necessarily trying to have that type of relationship with me at that point. And so you would then kind of force yourself into being in a predicament where you're now being rejected or not being heard, and all these things can lead to resentment. So what I did, I interacted with persons that were encouraging or would even listen. You understand? And so be it if it's a female. You understand?
So interesting point there. But any other men want to jump in there and kind of chime in that segment there and kind of piggyback on what Gary's saying? Brown, maybe, or Marson, any one of you guys? I think your mic
Pastor Morrison, your mic is muted.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Brown.
No, Pastor Morrison was speaking, but his mic is muted.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't recognize that. My apologies.
That's all right.
I want to thank DJ KT for firstly giving me that perspective. So I apologize to that young lady who said we weren't real. Thank you for helping us to understand the pain. I'm listening now to, I think it's Mr. Higgins who was just speaking. I'm not sure.
Yes.
About what he said. And I'm understanding his position, even of where he said he was deliberate in what he did and it didn't consider himself a victim. Most men will not come to a conclusion that they are cheating emotionally, but that they have found an avenue, an opening to share readily with someone else because it's not being accepted, where he's giving artists feel as if he's not being understood. Part of the psychological analysis shows that most men even don't want to really come home because they don't feel they can win the argument. And so they will stay out at the domino table until 2 a.m. and stuff like that. But that's part of what is shown to be true. As to whether or not it is right is the question. It really isn't right. But it's understandable that this is the route that is taken. And so we continue to encourage, communications,
Right.
at least even if you don't think it was understood, still share it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're referring to, for example, my situation, what you said just now, still share it with who? My wife at the time?
Yes, at the time.
Yeah.
But as you said, you deliberately spoke with someone else, but that is mainly because of the feeling that she was not understanding, or probably she wasn't passionate or compassionate enough. And so you felt you needed to share with someone else.
That was my choice because, But
you think, looking back, you think it was a good choice? Looking back at it, do you think that was it might have been better to share with her instead?
I have no regrets because I'm not bitter at the end of the day. I was able to...
No, it's about her now. Maybe it's about her now, Gary. So you're saying about her feeling, how about where she stands? How about her pain? How about that?
She's in pain regardless. She has no idea that, well, she does, because one of the persons I was sharing with was her sister.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what kind of infidelity that you guys would refer to that as, but for me, it was no interest to be indulging in a outside relationship, intimately or whatever. These things were very much, like desires that I had, I was pursuing, I was very much like, it's not going to change. I mean, we're not together now, and I'm still doing what I'm doing, So, what difference does it make? If it was, say, for example, I was sharing that information with another male.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
That's cheating.
Well,
now I'm interested in being involved with a man, so to speak.
Well, I mean, technically, some men do it, but I mean, not your case. But the reality is that by not speaking to her directly, you think that might have been a. I mean, Brown, what do you think about it? That's just. I think men kind of. Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of time we put a lot of emphasis on what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes it's not the right and wrong. Sometimes it's a matter of what is wise and what is foolish, because I don't know what state I would have been in mentally, emotionally, and physically, if
Mhm.
I had suppressed, all of those expressions or, emotions and desires, and not have an outlet.
So question, Gary. So
What
question.
about
I'm gonna let Brown
a
jump in here.
counselor?
I'm
DJ KT.
gonna let
What
Brown
about a
jump in here.
counselor?
I'm gonna let Brown
Sorry?
jump in here. But
What about a counselor? Sharing it with a
Gary.
professional mediator.
Yes, a counselor maybe, or Gary maybe, right? How about this? How about tell her, but even if you told somebody else, you can still tell her.
At some point, there's no interest for me to, like, I'm not gonna force somebody to do something that they don't want to do. It's like I want to be or go where I'm celebrated, not tolerated.
So Gary, interesting point, man. Mr. Brown, let me hear you chime in here on this. It's a very interesting point Gary's making here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely believe, as Pastor Morrison said, there is always a better way to approach that, as opposed to sharing with another female, that would lead to some sort of thing, or even another male, because in this day and age, it's 6 or 1/2 dozen the other. A counselor can always be solicited, and even where your partner may not be open to conversations, what we have now is a lot of mediators, a lot of persons who will sit with you both, a good Christian couple, a good godly counselor, who can really be a neutral third party and allow for there to be free communication without like animosity. But I feel like at this point of the conversation is also a perfect time. I think on behalf of like all men, there is a need for apologies to be made to women around the world. We've hurt a lot of people. I always tell my friends, people close to me, I have no problem owning my L's, or us as men taking responsibility. From Adam, from Eden, the first man that was held accountable ran. We have inherited that as men. We don't take responsibility as much as we should, and it's wrong. And so I would like to at this point take the opportunity to apologize to all women. I don't know who your boyfriend or your husband was, or your partner at the time, or whoever it was that may have cheated on you, who may have been an infidel towards you, who may have broken your trust, who may have been disloyal. And even though we are here really assessing the issues and the deep causes and treatment factors, there is still a need for like public open apology, because some women haven't gotten an apology. I've hurt people, I've been hurt. And so having experienced both sides of that entire game, I can say, listen, it's not a nice thing. I have a lot of broken people, both men and women. A lot of women, their lives are in tatters after a husband who was a primary breadwinner, a partner who they would have invested their entire lives in. I know women who have poured themselves into a guy, like financially, emotionally, spiritually, in every way, really invested, and then this person breaks your trust and goes, and then you're left to pick up the pieces. And so like, we are not here, I don't want it to ever be received as if we're here just like over analyzing and psychoanalyzing these talks, and then we're not like holding ourselves responsible. We're taking full responsibility for the men around the world, saved, unsaved, who have hurt you, who have lied to you, who have cheated on you. And what we're doing now is that we're taking the necessary time to have these conversations, because we realize we will never get this thing cured or treated unless we have these talks. We have to be able to sit down, maturely, broken as we are, both male and female, and have the real conversations. Why are we doing this? Why are these things recurring? If we jump up and super spiritualize it, if we jump up and get in an emotional foment about it, we still won't get the answers we need to get better. Exactly. And this wicked cycle is going to continue. So these talks are absolutely important for us to have, for the women and the other men to hear what's in our hearts here as those gathered together on this panel, and to have the conversation around the issue so we can try to find the way forward together.
And I'm gonna say it real quick.
All right, we have a caller. DJ KT.
Yeah, we have a caller. Yes, all right.
So,
bring that person in.
Yes, we have a caller.
Hello.
So, hello. Good night.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm thinking,
yes, we can. Good night.
Good night. After Mr. Brown spoke, I feel maybe I don't need to ask the question anymore, because like the other woman who made her comment, I feel the same way. Thank God for the comment that he just made, because my question was going to be, is there any room in a man's mind, his ideology, his intellect, his thought, etc., for him to own his truth, his ish, his flaws or his wrongs. I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
definitely. Yeah.
I mean, that's all I'm gonna ask because I'm like, really, like, huh?
Well,
Like,
I would love to. I'd love to. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, caller. What's your name?
my name is Raquel.
All right, hi Raquel. I definitely thank you so much for being so honest and just being so forthright with your thoughts. I know for a lot of women, it's not so easy to be honest and respectful. Thanks for sharing.
All
I can definitely.
you
Go ahead.
hold men accountable because I think you know what I think the real problem is. The world gives men too many passes. Too many passes. And I'm not saying they don't deserve it, whether they deserve it or not. But we women are not donkeys. We're not donkeys. We can't bear it all. We're not donkeys. We cannot keep bearing it all. How many times must we walk around on eggshells because of man's ego or his feelings? I have feelings too. I have feelings too. Own your ish, own your truth. Because you know what happened? Most times a woman just wants him to do that so she can love him through it. Own it. We can't heal anything until we've owned it. And own it publicly too, because I'm no religious person, but if I remember correctly, the Bible says you should confess your sins. Hence the public baptism. Huh? So when he cheats, he needs that public baptism to say, I failed for two reasons. To let whoever out there who he spoke to in a circle be clear of his decision now. Because men don't break up, as research shows. They don't. The woman has to walk away. And women choose men. Yes, y'all need to have Dr. Gale on here, Herbert Gale. Yes, on here to speak about those things, right? So a man is designed to be loyal. He's designed to be loyal. So he will go around in circles. And do not get me wrong, all we women accommodate. And we sometimes know he's doing the wrong thing. And sometimes we know he wants to stop. And we keep pushing it. We keep pushing it and we find reasons. But in the end, when we open our mouths, need to speak on our own behalf and own it. And if there were 6 women on this panel right now, I would say the same thing. And until we get to the place of stop going around in circles and explaining and defending and just hit the nail on the head, we can't treat anything we don't own. We've got to own it first. We've got to own it, find it in our intellect, in our minds, in our hearts. Oh my gosh, heal, brother, heal. Heal, what do you think the women are going through?
Yeah. I'd love to.
Of men. I mean, just terrified. And I've had all great men.
If I may, Raquel, if I may just share with you,
so much.
I agree with you on a couple of the points that you shared. And that's why I thanked you first for sharing. I would add a little bit of perspective because one thing I've learned, I'm 26 years old. I'm probably the youngest person on this panel, but I've learned a lot over my 26 years. And something I always say to people really close to me is aging and growing are not the same. I have a lot of people who have lived on earth for a long time, but they haven't been gathering a lot of experience. I've been learning the lessons from life. Life has taught me a lot, and the Lord has taught me a lot. And something I've learned is you're right, that there is a place for owning and accepting one's wrong. It's something I have done personally. It's something I've seen men do. I've watched those male friends of mine take responsibility, godly men who have failed. They've taken responsibility. They've gone to their spouses and they've said, hey, I messed up. Situations that the partner would never know of. One night stands, backroom things, secret things, and they fessed up. So I when I say this, I'm not defending men. I'm simply giving the entire truth. And I think tonight's talk has been beautifully poised as a very balanced conversation because we started everyone from owning it. We started from saying, hey, it's wrong. It's wrong. It breaks lives. It breaks families. It breaks children. It breaks finances. It breaks ministries. It breaks churches. It doesn't ever
breaks everything.
It breaks everything, including the person. That's the starting point for this conversation. So I definitely agree. We have to own and take responsibility. And I would say, in addition to that, there has to be a recognition that having owned, having taken responsibility, how do we go forward? Because I can tell you, if the body of Christ, if our partners, if our sisters, if our mothers, if our aunts, if our church leaders, if our body is unwilling to accept a person confessing the sin, confronting the sin, taking responsibility, there is still no way forward. There still has to be a place of, all right, you've taken responsibility. How do we
Restoration.
now fix
Yes.
you? So, and that's what we're having tonight. A lot of this conversation is looking at, brother, we know you know adultery is wrong. We know you know infidelity is wrong. We know you know cheating is wrong. Why is it happening? One. Two, how do we fix it? Because if we don't have that talk, we will endlessly
Like a
hurt each
circle.
other.
Like
We
a circle.
just, yeah, you know.
I don't think we can get to any support systems until the sore is exposed and cleaned out. So while I understand you're saying at some point in time, when we get there, there should be support system and healing and enabling environment for healing. I get that. But I don't think, with all due respect, my amazing Black men are at the place to be making that request yet. I think they should put all the energy, it's like building something. You have the foundation first. Let's focus our energy on owning it first. Let's just say, let's own our stuff. Let's just come together and own it. Own it.
You know anybody that owns it up, Raquel? Have you personally met anybody that, like, owns up the wrong as men? You know anybody like that at all? That
Just,
you know has like owned the wrong?
Amazing men in my life. My dad was the most amazing human. The people I know are just amazing humans, but I also see the brokenness. I feel the burden of loving men, and I'm single. I am terrified of men, and I only know great men. I mean, some amazing men. I mean, when I say amazing, I mean out of this world amazing.
Well, Miss Raquel, I got good news for you. Got great news for you. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 men in this panel tonight, and they are fantastic men, I believe. Yes, man. Yes, Raquel. So I'll plead the fifth because I'm the fifth guy here. But I do hear, and it is painful. It's a painful thing. And you owning our stuff really is the foundation. It really is. It's owning our stuff. And like my brother said, a conversation is a good place to start. It's a great place to start. Got to talk about it.
I promise I'm gone. And the reason I say that is, as a success coach, you see, I've learned the moment you own it, you don't need anything else. That's liberation. That's freedom. That's growth. That's possibilities. That's everything. The moment you own it, healing comes naturally, because you see, the universe naturally draws blessings and wealth and harmony towards us when we are at our most honest, authentic self. You don't have to worry about the environment. The moment you own, it's the most powerful thing you could do is own your stuff, because when you own it, then nobody can hold it against you. Black men are powerful. I mean, just powerful. Own it. We're gonna love you anyway. We don't have a choice.
That was refreshing. That was very refreshing there. Very refreshing. I like that. Lady Misty, you got some words for us? She's all quiet,
I'm
like,
just drinking it all in. Yeah, I'm just listen. I am just sitting here and just listening. It is such a deep topic. There's a question here that came in that I am so afraid to ask. Because
anyway.
It's a real talk. We're real men. These are real issues.
I know this question is from a woman.
Mm-hmm.
This question is from a woman, and
Talk
just listening to the caller. Well, we have just a short time to go, but the question is asking, how do I unpack being cheated on by my man with another man?
That's a real issue. We have to talk about it. We can talk about it, we have to, because something I always say, and I'm sure Pastor Morrison can agree, because I learned so much from him. Yeah. We have to talk about
it. And guys, we have a little time here, but probably 5-10 minutes, so keep it real tight for now.
All right, I'm going to be really quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really quick. First of all, I think unpacking begins with internalizing. Might sound counterintuitive, But before we spew, there has to be a place of recognizing the source of the hurt, rationalizing the source of the hurt. Okay, this is what happened. This is who hurt me. This is why. Then after that, I think a healthy thing to do is identify a safe place. Women need safe places too. A lot of women who are victims of cheating, they need, is it a trusted, godly friend who is mature, who can actually help you? Is that the person? Or is it a pastor or a counselor? And I'll share something with you really quickly on this. Your partner, for a woman, her partner cheating on her with another man is not so easy. I know I have friends which has happened to. I know women which has happened to, and it's something that really breaks a lot of women. And I have female friends who are terrified of getting into relationships because of that. They don't want that to happen to them. They don't want to be that girl who your man left you for your next man. It has layers of trauma in it embedded, because for a woman, a big part of her self-esteem and identity is wound up in being able to please her man. And in Jamaica, you see that come out a lot in our dancehall culture, where women talk about them can keep them man and they keep them man satisfied, and the man not for going away because she's everything he needs. So when a man not only cheats on you with another girl, but with a guy, it's like for them, it completely short circuits them, because they're like, was I so little in your estimation that you couldn't even choose another woman over me? You had to go to a guy.
That's
I can speak to the challenges on his part, why he chose that, because clearly there were same-sex attractions that were not addressed. And so that's a problem. But I would say for her, a safe place. Start with a safe place. Women often talk a lot to friends. It's not the best practice. I can tell you, one, you're not going to get much healing if you quickly run through your close contacts and just begin to, hey, you know what Bob did to me? Hey, you know what Bob did to me? Hey, you know what Bob did to me? Because here's what, half of your friends are not even spiritually mature. Half of your friends are traumatized and broken themselves. And the next half of them don't really sit in a place of maturity or wisdom from which to really help you. And so just talking isn't helpful. Talking to the right person who can actually sit with you, pray over you, listen to you, take you through the word, journey with you through the brokenness, connect you with other people who can actually administer healing and oil to the wound. That's the kind of place to start. So I would definitely admonish not to go down the road of running to as many people as you can and, yo, this man is a waste man, you know, same keep on with the next man, big fish, whatever, because a lot of women do it, because women generally speak more, they spew more when they're hurt. They kind of crowd for help to a lot more people because they're more talkative and they pour out that kind of way. But I would say channel that to the right place of safety. I'll hand over because I know others have comments.
First of all, it's the stigmatization of the situation that she has to overcome. Because as Victor says, you couldn't choose another woman over me. And that is a problem for many in their mind. And so a mindset that needs to be really and truly, as said before, counseled. For some women, that could actually cause them to be walking the streets, not just thinking of not entering another relationship. Mentally, they probably need to be admitted for psychiatric counseling. And so it is very important. I say ditto to all that Victor says, yet the mindset has to be fixed. The mindset is one where every woman too, just like every man, need to firstly love themselves, know that they are significant. That things like these can happen in doing premarital counseling. There are two questions I ask. What if the man thumps you in the face? What happens if he brings domestic violence to you? What happens if that happens? And I turn to the gentleman and ask, what happens if you find that she has another man cheating on you? So I ask the hard and difficult questions. One, in aiding you to prepare. Not that we want it to happen, but that the possibility exists that it can happen. I probably now need to ask the question, what if he cheats on you with another man? But we have to ask the hard questions, and we have to actually really start by preparing the minds of individuals for relationships, for any situation that can occur.
Okay.
Wow, that's
Any other comments before we?
Wow, it's just this is a lot. I mean, you know,
It's a lot, huh?
No, what
It's a
happened is,
lot.
you know, them say the good have to suffer for
It's
the
a
bad.
whole lot.
Them say the good have to suffer for the bad, and I'm sitting here. I mean, I'm, you know, what Raquel said is like weighing so heavy on me. It's like I don't know what it's like to cheat on somebody because I've never done that before in any relationship that I've been in. So it just, you know, when no, because of what, you know, other males have done, it's like no, we kind of bear the the we kind of inherit. You know, it's kind of like, you know, yeah, you know, and it's like
It
yeah,
still
you know,
hurts.
some of these men though, I can say, um, you know,
You got 1 minute, Gary. 1 minute.
it's not their faults because they are themselves victims that, you know, cause them to do a lot of the things that they are doing and probably don't even understand why or what is really the root of their, you know, their actions and stuff like that. So and at some point I can imagine it becoming kind of like a defense mechanism in, you know, in a sense. So, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
Stuff.
If I may I say something?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The counsel.
I think what we have to understand is, and there's something that I learned, is that to everything give credit to the Almighty. We have a tendency to look at man and we get so engaged in the physical that we completely neglect the spiritual, right? You see, when something happens, I also have to ask myself, how did I attract this? Who am I being? How am I showing up that this got attracted to me? And why do we have such a bad relationship with truth? For example, and I'm a coach, so I know I'm a disruptor. And so people get uncomfortable when I speak because I'm not a counselor. I'm not here to you know, say, oh, hush. No, I'm not that person.
Right.
The thing is, when something happens, it is for us to say, what is happening? What is the purpose of this? How do I interact with this? Why? How have I attracted this? It's not for us to get into victimhood, victim land. That's not it. Okay, so you found out he's gay. Thank you, Jesus. I know now. And if you know who you are, why does that impact you that way? Do not get me wrong. We're humans. So that anxiety is going to happen. And that's why when you have a broken leg, you go where? To the hospital. When you have a broken spirit, you go to the spiritual. When you have a broken mind, you go to those who can help you and get over it. But no, we sit and we go over and we relive it and we manifest it. And the more you see it the way you do, is the more it happens to you. Thank you, sir, for demonstrating truth to me. Now that I can see you for who you are, let me love you where you are by leaving you and just supporting you the best way I can. And if I can't, I'm just gonna leave you there. Please let me find out if I can find somebody who can help you because I can't handle it. And I just love you from where I am. You see, owning truth has nothing to do with lie or dishonesty. It's just owning who you are, where you are, what is happening. It's just a matter of stating it, coming into the consciousness of how you're showing up and who you're being, and what you're attracting. And it's connected to purpose. Everything the universe loves you. But we've got to get to a consciousness of learning to use it rather than being used by it. We've got to get there. We need to end the lamentation. This is a good thing. Everything is a good thing. And the only person to credit is God, the good, the bad, the ugly, because it cannot happen without him allowing or orchestrating it. You cannot touch me without God saying, go ahead. You cannot cheat on me without God saying, I'm going to allow it. And if he allowed it, why? We need to ask more questions rather than providing all these answers. We don't have the answers or we wouldn't be here. So I'm just saying we need to get past the victimhood, the wrapping up this pain and, oh, let me live with this. And no, lessons. We're on a journey. We're here for a purpose. We're not here to hang out. We're not on vacation. So, and guess what happens? Sometimes God is telling us to make decisions and we refuse to. So you know what he has to do? Disrupt. He has to disrupt it in a way that you're going to respond to it. And so some of us, if a man doesn't hit us, we don't wake up. He could do everything else that demonstrate the same attitude. Do nothing. Then he hits us and we wake up. Okay. You know, it's like he's tapping you nothing. He's tapping you nothing. And then a big accident happened and all of a sudden we're up. The universe is going to get our attention based on what we're attracted to. So that's why I said men should own their stuff and women should do the same, because no one can blame the other. Because if I didn't do it, I attracted it. Nobody's free. We just have to love each other through it. And I have to say, you guys stuck with it today. You didn't disappear. You didn't run away. You stayed. And that's what life is about, in my opinion.
Well, folks,
All
you
right,
heard
thank
it.
you.
We've had a pretty flavorful and eventful night tonight.
Yes,
And
we did.
when I'm finished, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna tell my imaginary wife that I love her. I'm gonna tell my imaginary wife that I'm sorry. But this has been a really, really great show. And I'll tell you, you know, it's something about sharing and hearing different perspectives. I mean, I learn every day. I mean, I'm learning. I'm taking stuff in and putting stuff out. But you gentlemen are awesome, man. You guys came like a rock, you know. I didn't see no tears though, but maybe next time. But we stuck it out and we hung in there, and we had some good words. And I trust in the over 60 countries that we're in, somebody gonna say, hey, I heard something that can really help me to make my marriage or my relationship be stronger, because people are out there and they're listening. They're on YouTube, they're on podcast, they're everywhere. Like Misty can tell where they are, but they're there. And so I really appreciate you guys for making it happen tonight. You guys are really kings in my mind.
Yes, thank you so much,
Thank you,
guys,
sir.
for coming and sharing. It was a wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate you for coming and sharing from your heart. Thanks to all those who stayed with us tonight, kept our company. Thanks to all those who sent in their comments and questions. I know we didn't get to go through all of them, but I thank you anyway for keeping the conversation engaging. Thanks for staying with us tonight, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Bless you.
Oh,
Bye, gentlemen. Bye, lady.
Thanks for having me. God bless, guys. Take care.
you're
Awesome.
welcome.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having me.
As
Peace out.
usual.
Peace out. Blessings.
Oh, congrats. Look at that, huh? Awesome.
Keith, you gave me an idea, man. Imaginary wife.
Relationships on You Me Radio.
So what are we talking about?
Marriage, dating, parenting, business.
And love, emotions, sex.
It's a conversation with me, Lady Misty,
and DJ KTE
on everything from hot topics to taboos.
Join us Mondays at 9 p.m. live on UMERADIO.
Follow us at Let's Talk Relationship Show on Facebook or on UMERADIO on Instagram. Let's talk relationships, arguments for the grown.
Get the UMERADIO app to listen wherever you are. That is UMERADIO.